Good evening. My name is Annette Mills, and on behalf of the Corvallis Sustainability Coalition, I would like to welcome you to the 2026 Sustainability Town Hall. Thank you all for coming tonight and for your interest in creating a sustainable community. The Coalition's mission is to promote an ecologically, socially, and economically healthy city and county. Our guiding objectives are based on the 4 natural step system conditions for a sustainable society, and we invite you to take one of the blue bookmarks on your table and use these guiding objectives as a tool in your daily decision making. The Sustainability Coalition is a network of nearly 400 partner organizations and many individual volunteers. A coalition founder who is helping to lead the way to a sustainable future is OSU's Sustainability Officer, Brandon Trelstead, who's going to tell us how this is a model sustainable event. Brandon?
All right, so for those who have been to town halls before, you probably can follow along with what I'm about to say. But we do try and make this a model sustainable event, as Annette has said, and we, along those lines, use reusable and compostable food service, and we have staffed waste stations out in the lobby areas. So thanks to the awesome volunteers who are staffing those stations, real humans doing that work, yes. On the energy front, we are tracking electricity use in the building using our real-time electrical monitoring system designed by students in my office in the sustainability office. We also purchased 1 carbon offset to more than offset the amount of carbon emissions that come from this event. And we manage lighting as best we can, like right now, to keep energy use a little bit low. And what you can see on the screen here is the before and after results from an energy conservation project we did in this building in about 2021 and 22, with that green line at the top being the before. So pretty significant savings from the work we do on campus. On the food front, we were, thanks to a partnership with New Morning Bakery, all able to enjoy delicious food, or hopefully everybody got a little bit, from our local 6 counties. And the beverage of choice tonight is locally harvested municipal tap water, which actually tastes great here. We're very lucky. And speaking of water, we're also conserving water in the restrooms with water conserving sinks and toilets and urinals. And now back to you.
Thank you, Brandon. Another way that this is a sustainable event is that it's free and inclusive. And for that, we owe a big thank you to our sponsors and donors. Tonight's sponsors include OSU Sustainability Office, First Alternative Co-op, Benton Community Foundation, G. Christensen Construction, Peak Heat Pumps and Electric, Abundant Solar, Brothers Hauling and the Sustainability Store, Corvallis Environmental Center, Corvallis Waldorf School, Greenbelt Land Trust, Owen Dell and Associates, Sky High Brewing, Summerbeam Books, Town and Country, Sotheby's International Realty, Heart of the Valley End of Life Community, Mary's Peak Group of the Sierra Club, Mary's River Watershed Council, Mika Haberrod, Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Mid-Willamette Bird Alliance, Public Good PR, Seeds for the Soul, Tarweed Folk School, Third Act Corvallis, Willamette Gardens, Willamette Grange number 52, and Valley Neighbors for Environmental Quality and Safety. Financial support also comes from individual donors and other partner organizations who we call our Town Hall Heroes. We'd also like to acknowledge our engaged partners who provide long-range financial support for our basic operations. We are very grateful to these generous individuals and partner organizations. So please join me in thanking all of our sponsors and donors. We'd also like to recognize all of these volunteers and staff who worked on planning and promoting tonight's event. And I also want to say thank you to Willamette Gardens for the Oso berries that they've provided this evening, and to Ashley Terry for his video services that contributed to the program. And a big thank you to all of those who are assisting with tonight's program. We really appreciate your willingness to help. Living more sustainably requires us to think holistically and long-term into the past, at the present, and the future. And so we'd like to begin by honoring that we reside in Champinafu, the ancestral area of the Ampinafu Kalapuya people who have stewarded this land since time immemorial. We live at a pivotal moment. As a community and as a nation, we are facing some incredible challenges that are contributing to a dramatically changing world. But these challenges also present us with tremendous opportunities. Our theme tonight is resilience, the ability to recover quickly from adverse circumstances. And resilience is a critical characteristic of sustainability. Tonight's program has 3 parts, each beginning with presentations at the front of the room, followed by discussion at each table. After each set of presentations, we'll pose questions to explore at our tables, and our volunteer table leaders and recorders will help guide us and collect our ideas. And we'll end by sharing with you some goals and opportunities we envision for 2026, which is the Coalition's 20th year. Because this is our 20th year, we thought it would be fun to take a look back at our very first town hall, which was held in March 2008. So here's a brief clip from the video that Dave Eckert made with assistance from Lynn and Morris Walker at that event 18 years ago. See if you recognize anyone.
Good evening. My name is Shana Rogers, and I'm a student here at OSU and the Director of Environmental Affairs for the Associated Students of Oregon State University. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the first Community Sustainability Town Hall meeting. I'm especially excited to be here because I've lived in Corvallis all of my life. I went to Fairplay Elementary School, Sheldon Middle School, and I graduated in 2005 from Crescent Valley High School. Corvallis is my home, and I care a lot about this community. That's why I'm here tonight. I believe that Corvallis and Benton County can become sustainable, but only if we work together to make it happen. For the past year, the Corvallis Sustainability Coalition has been bringing people together to create a community that is healthy and thriving, environmentally, socially, and economically. The public process that is being launched tonight has been organized by many people in the Corvallis Sustainability Coalition, including Annette Mills and Betty Griffiths.
The vision of the Corvallis Sustainability Coalition is that Corvallis is a community in which the needs of the present are met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It is a flourishing and thriving city with a vibrant economy that respects, restores, and cares for the community of life. During the past year, the Corvallis Sustainability Coalition has been building a collaborative network that includes over 90 organizations, nonprofits, businesses, faith communities, educational institutions, and government entities. We have grown to nearly 400 partner organizations. And many of our partners responded to our call for submissions to the annual community scrapbook that recognizes their achievements of the past year. Now, as you watch and learn about these achievements, please make note of the ones that seem especially important to you, so you can share one of them during your table discussion. To narrate the first part of the 2025 Community Scrapbook, I'd like to introduce Shana Rogers, who now serves on the Coalition's steering committee 18 years after she welcomed attendees to the very first town hall in 2008. And Shana will be joined by Matt Gillespie, who serves as co-leader of the Coalition's Health and Human Services Action Team. Please give them a warm welcome.
Good evening, everyone. 500 women scientists Corvallis produced 11 TAP Talks and collaborated with Beyond Corvallis High School to produce the second annual Women in STEM event. Abundant Solar provided 85 new customers with access to the residential solar tax credit before it expired last December. Abundant Solar customers in our community produced nearly 10,000 megawatt hours in 2025 alone. In the past 20 years, Abundant Solar has provided solar energy to more than 1,000 local households, which is nearly 10% of single-family homes in our community. Solar installers from around the state came together to honor James Reese-Miller, founder of Abundant Solar, who passed away in 2022. Led by Elemental Energy of Portland, they planned a 45 kilowatt solar system for the Corvallis Community Center. Woo. The Benton County Historical Society launched the Black History Tour, telling local stories of Black pioneers who made Benton County their home. Brothers Hauling donated over 200 pieces of furniture, including couches, tables, dressers, and more, keeping quality items out of the landfill. Citizens Climate Lobby, Corvallis chapter, appeared in local media, contacted legislators, held lobby meetings, tabled at outreach events, and offered development opportunities. The city of Corvallis conducted a greenhouse gas inventory that showed carbon emissions from their operations had dropped 32% since 1990, just 8 percentage points below their 2035 goal of 40%. Their total community emissions dropped by 4.7% since 2018, and that's a 6.5% drop per capita in 6 years. The City of Corvallis Active Transportation Group installed 3 new green bike lane markings this year, culminating a 6-year project that installed 36 markings at 30 intersections. They also transformed Northwest Tyler Avenue with speed bumps, a traffic circle, a traffic diverter, and repaving as part of a new neighborhood bikeway project. Community engagement and leadership at OSU trained 19 students to be sustainable, socially conscious leaders within the OSU community. Their Beyond Earth Day community fair promoted sustainability throughout OSU and the community by engaging over 40 organizations and 400 participants. The Corvallis Folklore Society produced the Corvallis Celtic Festival, with participants from all over the region enjoying musical performances, workshops, jam sessions, and craft and food vendors. The Corvallis Daytime Drop-In Center moved into a larger, more functional space, providing for the sustainability of the people. They served over 1,000 people, sustaining them through life's ups and downs. And they expanded their trained staff to over 10 employees and 20 volunteers. The Corvallis Environmental Center's summer camps provided local young people with more than 18,000 hours of outdoor, screen-free adventures. They led field trips for 1,752 K-5 students, including more than 1,500 students at Sage Gardens and 204 students who visited their partner farms. The Corvallis Fall Festival raised more than $25,000 for local charitable organizations, helping to boost our economic sustainability. Corvallis Housing First received a grant to start a peer support program, which is the primary support resource for their guest residents. The Corvallis Multicultural Literacy Center provided 163 immigration legal clinic consultations for information and legal support. They also provided English classes and community programs for 265 students from 46 different countries. The Corvallis School District completed and approved its Sustainability Management Plan. They launched a native plant living classroom model and blueprint to be used for all of their schools. And they developed an environmental literacy toolbox available for all educators in the district, featuring interdisciplinary K-12 environmental literacy lessons. Corvallis Waldorf School prepared the land for their dry farmed field using fossil fuel-free techniques. Students hand-scythed the cover crops, and the land was fertilized by their pastured chicken flock and plowed by mules. The students planted 10 fruit and nut trees, leading from the school's chicken coop to their apple orchard. And they planted 14 native trees, including 10 in the school's forest and 4 by their recess field. The Da Vinci Days Grand Kinetic Challenge welcomed solar-powered, bike-happy, accessible, upcycled kinetic sculptures. They tripled their participants of all ages and identities, who fueled the local economy with $184 each. And now Mac will take it from here.
Thank you, Shana. Onward. Dev Northwest completed construction and sales of 11 affordable single-family homes in Corvallis, providing housing for about 20 people. The homes include Energy Star appliances, WaterSense water-saving plumbing fixtures, ductless heat pumps, water heaters, refrigerators, and overhead LED lighting. Their community land trust model expands access to wealth building. First Alternative Co-op supported the local economy by selling more than $8 million of local products, which is 31% of all their sales. And 250 of those vendors were local direct, shipped directly to the co-op rather than through a distributor. Their Beans for Bags program saved nearly 3 million bags from reaching the landfill and provided $4,000 to 16 local organizations. First Presbyterian Church of Corvallis hosted 2 sustainability-related guest speakers for over 200 participants interested in the state's new recycling rules and living a zero waste lifestyle. They adopted They adopted a highly littered city multi-use path, resulting in 3 robustly attended cleanups, and they held a free rummage sale open to everyone, including OSU students, to furnish their apartments with secondhand items at no cost. G. Christensen Construction drove nearly 67,000 miles on electricity in 2025, avoiding up to 4,200 gallons of gasoline. Their employee use of electric vehicles in 2025 helped avoid an estimated 18 to 20 metric tons of CO2 emissions. Great Old Broads for Wilderness Willamette Valley chapter sent dozens of public comments on proposed amendments to the Northwest Forest Plan and repeal of the roadless rule in defense of public lands. In addition, 7 of their volunteers performed over 375 hours of wilderness solitude monitoring in the Diamond Peak, Middle Santiam, and Drift Creek wilderness areas, and they held a 3-day campout for 33 members at Lost Prairie Campground, completing stewardship projects on public lands. Greenbelt Land Trust volunteers logged over 8,000 hours doing wildlife monitoring, restoration, planting, and construction of a new pavilion. 56 volunteers and instructors from around North America used 216 heavy timbers to build the timber frame pavilion in 8 days at Greenbelt's Bald Hill Farm. They also seeded 60 acres at the Lucky Mute Confluence property with 215 pounds of native seed and marked planting rows for installation of 100,000 native trees and shrubs. The Heart of the Valley End of Life community organized a free end of life resource fair with over 30 organizations and experts and 270 attendees. Jammin' for the Hungry volunteers sustainably processed 1,449 jars of jam distributed by 3 area local food banks to local people experiencing food insecurity. Community volunteers, including OSU students, logged 432 volunteer hours to produce the donated jam, valued at $7,245. In addition, they collaborated with Sage Garden's OSU student interns to help them learn food preservation practices, producing 5 dozen jars of jam in the process. 38 members of Ubalate, the Trebor Choir of Corvallis, performed this Wendat First Nation song for an interfaith gathering. The League of Women Voters of Corvallis organized a candidates forum, 4 legislative updates, and a Restoring Democracy series. They also participated in local rallies in support of democracy, distributing information on what community members can do in response to federal overreach. Lynn Benton Community College upgraded their courtyard lighting to LED. In addition, they conducted the 2nd annual Great Earth Day Energy Savings Scavenger Hunt and drafted college-wide temperature standards. Mary's Peak Alliance of Afrana purchased and installed protective buck rail fencing and native gabbro boulders with signs urging visitors to protect the Mary's Peak meadows. They collaborated with the City of Corvallis and the U.S. Forest Service to install signage showing the indigenous creek names on Mary's Peak. And they led over 600 students and adults on field trips up to the Mary's Peak summit, providing cultural, physical, and ecological interpretation. And here comes Annette.
Thank you so much, Shana and Mac. Really appreciate your help. So now it is your turn. We're going to have our table discussions and start with a round of brief introductions. So we're going to ask you to, when the lights go on, please share your name, just one affiliation like school, work, organization you volunteer for, whatever, and just one short sentence to share why you decided to come to the town hall this evening. And then after quick introductions, you'll go around again to name one accomplishment in the community scrapbook that felt important to you. And your table will have just 10 minutes to do all of that. So let's get started. So, for part B of the community scrapbook, please look for an accomplishment that's likely to inspire you to take action. And for this part of the scrapbook, I'd like to introduce two more members of the Coalition's leadership team. Please welcome Steering Committee member Andrea Norris and Water Action Team leader Dave Eckert to the podium.
Hello. I need a slide. Wait for it. All right. So the Mary's Peak Group Sierra Club produced String of Pearls, the Magical River Parks of Corvallis webinar series, available on the Corvallis Library YouTube account. They also produced the 9th annual, I'm still waiting for a slide. They also produced the 9th annual Chapinafu webinar series about indigenous foods, which was excellent, also streaming on the library's YouTube. And they led many local group hikes for the public to experience our local natural wonders. The Marys River Watershed Council installed 25 large wood structures, 4 off-channel alcoves, and 130 feet of livestock exclusion fencing along Shot Pouch Creek on Mary's Peak. Their Youth Watershed Council program engaged I'm bad luck. Okay. I hope you have more success, Dave. Their Youth Watershed Council program engaged 18 students in restoration work, including installation of 10 beaver dam analogs and log structures on a Shot Pouch Creek tributary. And they provided over 8 acres of invasive tree removal at Dr. MLK Jr. Park. The Mid-Willamette Bird Alliance celebrated volunteer Fred Ramsey's 55 years of volunteering with 200 people in attendance. New Morning Bakery sourced their menu ingredients from 17 local food producers for last year's sustainability fair. Northwest Naturescapes planted native and edible species, cultivating beautifully diverse and healthy habitats in Corvallis. And the Oregon Cascades West Council of Governments organized the Get There Challenge for our area, encouraging active transportation and other options for reducing use of single occupancy vehicles. Oregon State University ranked 3rd in the country in the Sustainable Campus Index for coordination and planning with a score of about 94%. OSU has the most sustainability assessment reports of any institution. They also purchased more than 600,000 kilowatt hours of carbon-free electricity from 3 community solar projects, reducing OSU's greenhouse gas emissions by over 350 tons, and their EcoRep program reduced recycling contamination rates in residence halls by about 8%. OSU Peace Studies Hiroshima-Nagasaki Planning Committee organized an 80th anniversary event, drawing hundreds of people to downtown Corvallis to learn about nuclear weapons dangers and peace building. They also raised funds for a permanent collection of 30 archival photographs from the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum that will be displayed annually in the Corvallis Museum. And they supported the school district's plan to build a long-lasting structure protecting the survivor tree located at the Bridges School. OSU Transportation Services Beaver Bus ridership reached an all-time high with over 218,000 rides. That is more than 1 million rides since 2017. Peak Heat Pumps and Electric saved 49 customers $98,000 through Oregon Department of Energy's Heat Pump Purchase Program. And they received Energy Trust of Oregon's Exemplary New Trade Ally Award. The Philomath Community Services June's Kids Closet distributed over 7,000 pounds of free clothing, and their Gleaners program served 484 people, recovering more than 58,000 pounds of food that would have otherwise entered the waste stream. South Corvallis Food Bank completed over 10,000 household visits to provide supplemental emergency grocery boxes to 2,609 unique households throughout the year. Their 418 volunteers contributed more than 10,000 hours of service to their organization, and they distributed over 560,000 pounds of food from Lynn Benton Food Share, donated food, gleaned food, and purchased food. Yeah, give it up. Tarweed Folk School hosted over 40 practical arts classes. This included basketry, wood carving, herbalism, natural dyeing, fiber arts, and cooking classes, nourishing relationships with the land and with each other. They celebrated the opening of their first permanent location in Corvallis' oldest commercial building, with more than 500 community members attending. Okay, and their scholarship program grew to 40 students registered in classes throughout the year, which is valued at $4,200 in tuition assistance. 10 Rivers Food Web launched the Mid-Valley Food Hub, sourcing local food for institutions from 7 local producers and selling to preschools, 5 school districts, LBCC, food banks, restaurants, and caterers. They distributed $9,000 worth of fresh local food to SNAP recipients, which served 151 SNAP cardholders and 4 food banks, thanks to a donation from the Corvallis Sustainability Coalition's It's On Us Corvallis program. The Time Garden hosted 280 guests at their annual salmon celebration, sharing their salmon stream restoration efforts and inspiring guests to preserve native ecosystems. They self-published their 4th edition cookbook as well, next slide, that highlights fresh, local, seasonal cooking for all skill levels. Unitarian Universalist Fellowship's Climate Action Team purchased and planted 6 hardwood trees downtown in partnership with the city of Corvallis. Valley Neighbors for Environmental Quality and Safety work to get landfill leachate and PFAS out of wastewater and the Willamette River downstream of Corvallis. They also help mobilize an array of environmental groups and the press to share their concern about Coffin Butte landfill. Now Dave's going to take it from here.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. Vina Moses Center worked with Anderis in a gleaning project to help people through times of hardship and to address food insecurity affecting the Latino community. Their volunteers spent 720 hours creating 18 gorgeous functional quilts from repurposed textiles for people experiencing homelessness. Volunteer Interfaith Caregivers of Corvallis completed 27 safer access projects for older adults in Benton County in 2025, providing $51,205 worth of free labor, and they were named Volunteer Group of the Year at Benton Community Foundation's Philanthropic Awards event. Wildese Bakery received USDA organic certification for 24 kinds of bread, 5 varieties of pastries, and 8 types of cookies through the Oregon Department of Agriculture. And the Willamette Grange completed the interior restoration of the historic Grange Hall with sheetrock, texture, and paint, and return of the historic trim. Look at that floor. The Energy Action Team members raised community investments through the Solarize Corvallis initiative to help finance a new solar system at Lumos Wine Company. The Solarize Corvallis project at OSU Forestry Buildings was completed. Our Shift Together partner Seeds for the Soul performed 205 home energy assessments, which resulted in over 150 home energy improvements. The team organized 3 partner networking events that included testimonials from businesses and individuals who have benefited from Shift Together energy assessments. The Education Action Team assisted student green teams at the Corvallis Public Schools, providing support for activities such as reducing food waste through composting. Team members also raised $20,000 to establish the Green Apple Award, to be presented annually to a school district staff member who has made significant contributions through sustainable living. The Housing Action Team launched a project to help find placements for 9 micro-shelters that were built by local high school students. They also co-sponsored a film showing No Place to Grow Old about the rising crisis of senior homelessness, and they continued to promote home sharing as a sustainable solution to the lack of affordable housing. The Transportation Action Team supported active transportation by delivering portable bike racks to community events. 23 volunteers helped transport the racks by bike to the record 18 events, such as here. They also organized the first ever Corvallis Trip Count at 92 separate sites. 42 volunteers completed 102 surveys of the modes of transportation at each site. The Economic Vitality Action Team includes our Saving Green program director, who facilitated walkthroughs at small and medium-sized local workplaces, working with Energy Trust of Oregon experts to identify energy-efficiently opportunities. Saving Green staff used a City of Corvallis Green Grant to purchase an infrared imaging camera, using it to show facility managers existing thermal leaks in their buildings. And team members launched a locally focused online shopping directory to encourage customers who typically purchase from national online retailers to think first of local businesses that offer the same or similar products, also online. The Natural Areas Action Team organized the 16th Annual Natural Area Celebration Week, featuring free family-friendly events during the first week of May, and 13 diverse events included a festival, hikes, walking tours, and workshops, all offered by local nonprofits and natural resources specialists. Our Waste Prevention Action Team educated people about how to prevent wasted food at home, primarily through outreach at farmers markets and schools. They also offered free compost pails for collecting inedible food scraps. They organized the 2nd annual Bread to Tap community event that featured a limited release Recycle, a low-waste menu, games, prizes, and live music sing-alongs. And team members distributed 3,500 copies of the newly updated Reuse Directory. This print version and the online Repair and Reuse Directory are among the most visited pages on the Coalition's website. The Food Action Team's Public Seed Library offered seed packets donated by the local businesses and organizations and sorted by volunteers. They held 5 free lectures and 3 pop-up plant clinics. And Team members organized their 12th annual Edible Garden Tour featuring 7 gardens at Southwest Corvallis, visited by more than 100 people, and they also distributed 1,000 copies of their Corvallis Garden Resource Guide, and they co-sponsored Cooks and Books, which showcases local chefs sharing dishes from their cultures and library cookbooks to explore at home. Yum. The Water Action Team managed 8 work sites, 100 work parties, and 527 separate individual volunteers, and held 0 meetings. And they accelerated the growth of a thriving ecosystem in a newly regenerated wetland along Lamprey Creek at Dr. MLK Jr. Park. And they added a new project regeneration site, the 7-acre Butterfield Wetland in South Corvallis, that already supports over 130 bird species. The Community Inclusion Action Team organized the first annual Tarweed Awakening Corvallis in collaboration with the Cultural Resources Department of the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, OSU Indigenous Studies Program, and 3 other Corvallis organizations to honor Ampinifu Kalapuya culture. And we raised over $72,000 to fund an indigenous canoe that would be made by a local indigenous canoe maker and will be managed by the OSU Indigenous Studies Program to reawaken canoe culture to the people of the Marys River. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea and David. Again, it is your turn to have a conversation at your table. And what we're going to ask you to do is name one accomplishment in the scrapbook, part of the scrapbook that you just saw, that's likely to inspire you to take action. And again, your table will have just 10 minutes, so let's get started. Thanks. And now for our keynote speaker. Andrew Millison is the founder of OSU's Permaculture Design Program, where he has been an instructor in the Department of Horticulture since 2009. Collaborating with experts at OSU, Andrew developed an online permaculture education program with niche offerings that has evolved into a worldwide program that has served tens of thousands of students internationally. His online education work led him to multimedia storytelling. How many of you have gone online and, you've all got to go on there and see what he's done, where he has built a global following. His popular YouTube channel boasts over 100 million video views, where he documents the most impactful ecological projects on Earth and presents them in both an artistic and technical manner. In recent years, Andrew has documented transformational land restoration projects throughout North America, Africa, Asia, and Europe. He founded the Earth Repair Fund in 2025, where he uses his videos to crowdfund for regenerative land projects. As a permaculture designer, the primary focus of Andrew's 30-year career has been water management systems. Andrew has designed and consulted on projects since the late 1990s around the U.S. and the world, specializing in large-scale water design. And we are very lucky that Andrew lives here in Corvallis, and I'm very pleased to welcome him to the podium. Please join me.
Thank you, Annette. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Okay, great. I was remembering back in 2008 when myself and my wife and my newborn son were looking for a new place to live, and we came and we checked out Corvallis, and we saw a flyer probably at the co-op for this Corvallis Sustainability Coalition meeting at the high school. And we came there in 2008 and we were like, wow, this is incredible. What a town. And we moved here. And so it's a real honor to be able to speak to you all here. So long later, many neighbors and friends and people that feel like family to me here. So thank you all, and thanks to Corvallis for 17 wonderful years. And I'm going to talk about fixing watersheds as how we fix the world. Okay, it's the title of this talk. And the watershed is the basis of land management. It's how nature actually organizes the landscape. Now, for some of you, like Dave here, this is review, but we need to take a minute to just understand what is the primary pattern, what's the macro pattern that we're working with right here. So the watershed basin is bounded by mountains, ridges, hills, and within that we have all of the creeks, drainages, meeting together, forming rivers. And if you actually look at the watershed pattern, the watershed basin, does it resemble something else to you? Yeah, a leaf, a tree, right? Our own vascular system. In fact, the synaptic connections in our own brain is the same pattern, dendritic branching pattern that we find within the watershed. So you might say the watershed pattern is actually the way that nature organizes the movement of nutrients and fluids in the third dimension, right? And this basis for, we're made up of this watershed pattern ourselves. We find this everywhere. Now, I'm going to have a few trivia questions throughout this talk here. And the first trivia question here is for all of you geographers. So this is actually a confluence of two waterways right outside Corvallis. Does anybody, by looking at this map, tell me what are the waterways this is the confluence of? Yes, okay. Zan Ojero, right? Your hand. Okay, and okay. Excellent. So we can look here at the confluence of Muddy Creek, and I actually use this slide all over the place, and this is actually the first crowd I think I've ever talked to where I could actually ask and get people to identify this, so I was really proud of that. But you can see there, we can see I've highlighted what look like property boundaries, property divisions, land divisions with those little red lines where we have roadways, we have fencing, and we can see the human division of landscape there. But underneath the human division of landscape, we see this other pattern, right? It's that watershed pattern. It's that branching pattern of waterways. Okay. Now, we see this human-imposed grid in the extreme in many examples. For instance, this example right here, San Francisco, California, you might call this one of the more extreme versions of how we've actually superimposed this grid of land management over this natural watershed pattern. How many people here have been to San Francisco? Okay, so the city of cable cars, right? But what happens when we actually take the landscape and we chop it up into grids, right? So these roadways become the new water drainages. And that grid becomes the way that we superimpose our own management of water flow over this landscape, and it actually results in massive levels of dysfunction. Because you can have an urban area like this, like San Francisco, like Seattle, like Corvallis, that can actually become hydrologic deserts even in rainy areas. Because the water is not soaked in, it is now shunted down on this grid pattern. So I actually consider the fact that we've superimposed the grid on top of the watershed pattern, I actually consider this the fundamental flaw of human civilization. kind of like the original sin. Now, I'm sure that there's some people here that would argue with me, especially if you're following the Judeo-Christian traditions or all of that. But I would say, from my permaculture perspective, the original sin is when we put the grid of property management over a non-gridded landscape. Now, we see this here in Corvallis. You can see I have the Oak Creek watershed kind of outlined in red around there, right? And so when we look at the development pattern, we see this kind of patchy mosaic of urban development. We have little blocks of forest and blocks of agriculture. Then we get up higher into the watershed. We can see we have forests, we have areas of clear cut, right? And none of the patterns that you see there seem to overtly correspond to that watershed tree, that watershed pattern. So one of the big challenges of humanity, in my opinion, is how do we reconnect land management to the patterns of the watershed, the patterns of water flow. And in this talk, I'm kind of giving you, this is my macro view of the world, and then we'll actually look at some specific projects, because like Annette said, I've had the fortune of being able to travel around the world to see really some of the most inspiring land restoration projects that are happening on the planet. Okay. Now, I love this LiDAR image here. You can see Corvallis right there in yellow. And this LiDAR image, it shows the historic channels of the Willamette River. And really, when you look at this, you can see that the Willamette River is like a sinuous snake that's moving around. And we have this, we imagine that the river is in some sort of static form, but that's only because we're only seeing a tiny blip of the history of this river here. And so when we're thinking about Corvallis, when we're thinking about our position within the landscape, we have to see this continually shifting and changing waterway that we are adjacent to, in addition to the watersheds that feed it right here. Now, there was a time when the United States of America actually could have gone on a trajectory where we made our political boundaries correspond with watershed boundaries, right? So this is John Wesley Powell, right? Lake Powell. Anybody been to Lake Powell on the Colorado River in Arizona? Okay, Lake Powell's named after John Wesley Powell. So Ulysses S. Grant, who's down there, looks like a very happy gentleman. Grant was the president of the United States. And he actually sent Powell to say, how are we going to effectively settle and colonize the arid West? So Powell journeyed all over. He was the first Anglo person to raft down the Grand Canyon. And Powell went around and saw the obvious fact that if we developed the arid West with political boundaries that did not correspond to watershed boundaries, we were going to have water wars. It was just inevitable because there was so little water in the West. So Powell actually drew up this map of the watershed democracy and said we need to divide the states on watershed lines. Not just the states, but actually every county within the state to be divided on watershed basins, which meant that the political unit and the watershed units would be one and the same. Now, it took quite a while for Powell to get back to the east to give his findings. By that time, Grant had died, and actually, the railroad lobby crushed the idea because they wanted to more effectively commodify and make squares and rectangles so we could easily buy and sell land in the United States. So we didn't get there, but that was like another timeline that didn't happen, but we actually could be in a very different reality today. Now, of course, we can see how that worked out. The Colorado River Basin superimposed over the Four Corners is a really great example of how badly we can do political boundaries in relation to the watershed. Anybody knows about the Colorado River knows that the politics are really, it's a really dysfunctional system because they allocated the river at a point of a historic high point in the river flow. So we have the setup for, problems forevermore. Now, it is not just the United States, of course. Every country, right? Every country, when we look at it, we actually can see these natural divisions of landscape. So I'm going to take you on a little journey over here to India, and I'm going to talk about what I consider as one of the most inspiring and successful watershed-based land restoration projects on the planet, right? Now, India also, the states are not divided on the watershed. So this is trivia question number 2 here. How are the states divided in India? It's a harder one. Not religion. Language, yes. Right, so India actually, they divided the states on language groups, which is another interesting way to divide this. But in the state of Maharashtra, which is a huge state, it has about 130 million people live there. Okay, and this is Maharashtra, is where Mumbai is located on the coast there. And it goes from the coast all the way into a very arid area. And they had extreme water shortages, right? So what happens is you get the monsoon rains and people would plant with the monsoons over a 3-month period. But then the rest of the year, the other 9 months are dry. So what was happening is that if those rains fail and people don't grow enough crops to have enough income, they actually have to leave, and they have to leave their villages, and then during the dry season, they go over and they have to work in the slums in Mumbai, or they have to become migrant laborers on different farms and such. And so there was this project that was developed, and this project was a contest. It is a contest between the villages in order to actually see which village could install the most amount of water harvesting structures in a 45-day period. So that's what this picture is that you're looking at right here. Because there is this Bollywood actor named Amir Khan. Anybody here know Amir Khan? Okay, very few of you. Amir Khan is like what we think of as like Tom Cruise. That's how famous Amir Khan is in India. Okay, mega famous leading man. And so Amir Khan, he was informed by traveling around and filming all these movies that there was this problem, but he also came into contact with some villages that had actually done the work to restore their watersheds. So he actually funded this, and with his fame, he got all of these massive amount of villages to start and join this contest. Now, I put this particular image up here because if you haven't ever seen a Bollywood film, this is a really good one to start with. Okay, Lagan, it's an absolute classic. And so he had, over a 4-year period, they got 8,000 villages to join this contest. Now, you can see here, you can see these water harvesting structures that are all full here, these ponds and this is what happens. This is what it actually looks like when they put these structures in. So they put these structures in place, dug by hand by the entire village, getting together in a 45-day period. And they put these structures in, and then the monsoons come, fill up the structures, and then that water actually soaks down into the ground and creates a reservoir of water, an aquifer underneath the ground. And then they have water underground, which they can pump out during the dry season to then grow crops. So it basically has doubled their income, doubled their productivity. And once you get a few seasons, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and you get all this rain coming in and it's soaking and it's charging up that aquifer, you actually get a permanent water table that has been built under there. So these villages have literally gone, it's mind-blowing, right? These villages have literally gone from people needing to leave and go to the slums to work during the dry season to now people are prosperous, right? And when you think of like 8,000 villages, each village has about 2,000 people on average. So that's 16 million people that were affected by this one project, right? And as well, each project has about 1,000 hectares, which is about 2,500 acres as part of their land area. So, I mean, you do the math, I'm not sure, right? That's a lot of ground that has been taken from a desertified landscape into a lush landscape, right? And so it's not just agriculture, it's also restoring degraded lands, okay? And then ultimately groundwater recharge. It's really fascinating. I don't know how many people here have been to India and gone around, seen especially some of these rural areas. All of the wells are hand dug. So it's not like here where, we'll come, drill this well and you can never really see the water. You just know that the pump is pumping water. Because the wells there are hand dug, you can actually look down and the groundwater table is very evident. So you tour around these villages and you see the groundwater table is right there below the surface. So they actually are very tuned in and they can monitor the groundwater levels as the year goes by. So groundwater recharge is really the basis. You can see these green fields growing up next door there. And then along with that comes the economic revitalization. So suddenly people can send their kids to school, send their kids to college, build a new house, right? Build like better roads. Now, there's a flip side that's interesting as well. I asked this one farmer, I was like, wow, so he was talking about, well, my one kid is studying computer science, my other kid's studying to be a doctor, and I was like, oh wow, do any of your kids want to be farmers now? He was like, no, my kids actually don't want to be farmers now. So, I mean, everything has its different sides to it, right? So this is me taking a picture of the map of their village grounds in the center of the village. This is a mural that this one village, Pimpri Jalsan, painted on the wall. Now, every little child, every grandmother, everybody in the village now understands how the village was saved through watershed restoration, right? So the literacy has gone into a societal level because of the work that they all collectively did. But here's the clincher, and this is where we here are at such a disadvantage, because these villages are all ancient. They have been in the locations that they have been in since long before anybody can actually even remember. And so they were settled and the areas were defined for those villages when people were still working with the logic of nature. So the village boundaries correspond to the watershed boundaries, right? This is what we've been talking about. The political boundaries, the decision-making boundaries of the population are also the watershed boundaries, which are the natural divisions of landscape. So it makes it really easy. All they had to do was decide to restore the boundary of their area, and it happened to also be the watershed, right? So this is where that grid I was talking about of property management, where it really makes things more complicated for us here, okay? Now, if you're interested in seeing more, actually, I've visited 6 of these villages out of the 8,000. I've got to say, of those 8,000 villages, 1,000 of them completely fixed their water problems 100%, to the level where they were then brought into the next level of the contest. So 7,000 villages did some level. But I visited 6 of the villages that had completely fixed their watershed. So you could go on my YouTube channel and you can watch those videos. So let's jump over now from India to some place that may be a little bit more familiar with everybody, and we're going to go to Hawaii, right? Now, Hawaii's Ahupua'a system. This is a system that is managing the landscape from the top of the mountain all the way down into the ocean. How many people here have been to Hawaii? I expect a lot of hands there. Yeah. So Hawaii, and like a lot of tropical islands, you have a mountain chain in the middle, and it basically goes down, and then you get to the coastline. So the watershed is not very obscure. You can easily see the clouds hitting the mountains, and then the streams going through the fields and then coming out into the ocean. So the Ahupua'a is the traditional Hawaiian system where the land management unit was exactly corresponding to that watershed. Okay, and it's designed around responsibility, community, and ecology. Now, you can see here I outlined this one small watershed right here. This is Oahu. So this is Honolulu right here, and Pearl Harbor is right here. So right over there on the wet side, there's this one watershed. And this is where the native Hawaiians live, are in most densely populated, on the most densely populated island. So that's the watershed that we're going to look at here for this next example of hydrologic restoration. So there is this group of people, of native Hawaiians, who realized that they had no land dedicated, no sovereign native Hawaiian land on the entire island chain. And so they actually camped out on the beach down in Waimanalo. They camped out and they got people, all the homeless Hawaiian people from all over the islands, everybody came, and also activists, and they camped out on the beach. And they stayed there for about a year and a half. And the government would arrest a whole bunch of people, they're like, sure, fill the jails. And they'd come out, and it just kept growing and growing. And finally, the government they were just like, we are so fed up with this. How about this? We will give you some land up near the base of the mountain there. We will give you like a little piece of land up there, kind of where all the mosquitoes are, and like, will you just go up there and be quiet and not bother the tourists anymore on the beach, right? And so they said, sure, they wanted land to actually have sovereign indigenous land. And so they took that land there, and over time, they started to actually transform the land. Now, they didn't have to come up with a design, because it turned out that underneath the forest of invasive plants, right? Hawaii is like 99 point something % exotic invasive species. One of the most devastated native ecosystems on the planet is Hawaii. I'm not sure if you know that. So what they found is when they started uncovering underneath these trees, they found the old terraces that their ancestors had actually had there. That was their old food system. And so they have now started to restore this Ahupua'a system, right? Managing the forest up from the top there and putting in uncovering and putting in these terraces here and growing lo'i, which is their staple crop, and inviting people from all over the island's community to come and actually work together and rebuild the system. Cultural restoration, actually restore the culture and the ecology and the agricultural system, right? So this is a good example of when we think of like a developed nation like the United States, of how we can actually still go with building community and get this watershed pattern put back into place, okay? And along with the agricultural revitalization, along with the cultural revitalization, it also creates an economic restoration. Because when you get people starting to work together and when they start to put these patterns in place, there is a lot of prosperity that comes because the agricultural system is in harmony with the ecological system. So yields are high. And so we've actually, through the Earth Repair Fund, which is my philanthropic organization, we've actually crowdfunded over $45,000 for this restoration project to date. And thank you. And if you actually go and see these videos here that are on my channel, you are able to support this project as well. So, how does this apply to our beautiful Corvallis, right? We have some really incredible examples. In fact, we have some things working for us that are so low maintenance for us that all we really have to do is just let it happen, right? Do we have any Beavers fans here? I think that the fact that OSU, the fact that we are like, go Beavs, and we get tens of thousands of people chanting together about the Beavers, I mean, this is like a really strong medicine animal for us here, you know? So some of it's just letting the beavers be. I mean, how easy is that for restoring a watershed, right? That's one thing. And then, you know, like what the water action team here, what Dave showed us with restoring riparian corridors, replanting these vital waterways. I mean, a lot of riparian plants, willows, you just stick them in the ground and they grow, right? So, I mean, we have some incredibly easy solutions here to take advantage of. Now, one thing that's not too easy, though, is redesigning industrial monoculture forestry. This is kind of tricky. And I mean, when you look at this, I just was like, grab this satellite image. When we talk about superimposing this grid of land management over a non-gridded landscape, it's not good out there. When we look at the grid of forest management, it makes no ecological sense. And so I'm not, you know, we only have about 3 minutes left, so I'm not going to present my plan for reimagining industrial monoculture forestry here, but I will say that, you know, there's a lot of good stuff out there. Some things like agroforestry, rotational grazing, silvopasture, places that we actually plant trees and mix trees in with agricultural systems. There's a lot of really great examples out there that we could use here to reimagine farming and forestry together, right? And then we have urban stormwater management. Now, this is something that, I mean, if anybody's ever seen Portland, driven around there, we see the green streets where, you know, we have some of this in Corvallis, but in Portland, there's a massive amount of these sunken stormwater basins where the water from the roads are collecting down in there, they're soaking in and growing, I mean, hopefully native plants, wetland plants, although don't seem very strict about it there. Yeah. So we have urban stormwater management. And then, of course, we have, which, you know, a lot of the permaculture method is, I'm sorry my text kind of went away there, but it says, you know, like the mosaic of urban homestead development. So this is my house here in Southtown. So even on each one of your own lots, to actually be harvesting, soaking in water is doing a great benefit to the overall watershed. Because when I think about probably how many different properties here collectively between the people here, you're talking about a lot of ground that could be absorbing water as opposed to draining water, right? And so when we think about the scale of our Oak Creek watershed and the scale of the other creeks in our Corvallis watersheds, and we think about the effect that each person here can make in their own property, as well as some of the larger scale things like restoring riparian zones and doing urban stormwater management on the streets, we actually can have a huge effect. We really can here. So my takeaway messages, first off, the fundamental flaw of civilization is superimposing this grid of land management over the watershed pattern. You may have heard it here first. I don't know. Now you know. You can never unhear it. Now, there are huge advantages to working within an intact watershed basin like we see in India. If the city of Corvallis controlled the watershed that we influence here, all we have to do is vote in watershed-based mayor, watershed county commissioners, and we would be on our way, right? So we're watching you, right? Yeah. And now, just like this is the example, there is great power in collective effort and community cohesion, right? It cannot be underestimated. And there are a great diversity of strategies for rural, suburban, and urban landscapes. We have all of this at our fingertips. All we need to do really is decide to do it. And I believe that actually the people in this room, I mean, there's enough decision-making power in this room that we could actually make a huge difference on our watersheds if we dedicate ourselves to it. Yeah. So, and we could be one of these stories that the world would want to see and follow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I believe I'm out of time. So, there's, if you want to see some of these videos and many more from around the world, you can go to youtube.com/amillison. There's our Oregon State University permaculture classes, Earth Repair Fund. Thank you so much for all the good work that you do here in this town. Thank you.
I feel really inspired, and I hope you do too. So this looks like it's the very first slide, but let me see what's next. Anything? Nothing? I need a little help, Joe. But in the meantime, we have one more table discussion, and that is, what is one idea, thank you, or action from Andrew's talk that we can apply here in Corvallis and Benton County, and why is it important? All right, what's one idea or action that we can apply, and why is it important? Okay, 10 minutes, thank you. So now we're going to move into the final segment, the last 15 minutes of our town hall, and just want to thank you again for your participation. At this time, I would like to introduce the Coalition's administrator, Bree Walters, who did an incredible job coordinating this year's fair, the Sustainability Fair. That was Bree's work. Please give her a warm welcome.
Hi, everybody. Okay. So since its formation in 2007, the Coalition has accomplished a lot. And many of those accomplishments are thanks to our devoted volunteers, generous donors, and hundreds of partners who have helped us work towards our mission in one way or another. With the Coalition's 20th anniversary approaching, we're so excited to celebrate all that has been achieved by the Coalition over the last 2 decades. We're forming a committee to help us plan special events and activities, and we plan to have some videos made to celebrate our accomplishments and highlight a few of our programs. We've already had our first video made, which we'd like to share with you all now.
Coalition offers a free program called Saving Green that helps workplaces like this one to cut operational costs and conserve natural resources. It can have a major impact. Let's hear from some Corvallis business owners who are excited to share their experiences working with Saving Green.
Basically, I just coordinated with a contractor of their choosing that came in. They did all the lighting upgrades. That was all paid for by the Energy Trust of Oregon. No bill to us. That was amazing.
It was completely without effort. The lighting is brighter. It has saved us a tremendous amount of money.
And of course now, Energy Trust of Oregon has, for the calendar year 2026, a 100% no-cost lighting upgrade. So what Larry was able to receive here at Peak Bike and Outdoor is now completely no cost for eligible workplaces. Which upgrades have you done as a result of your site assessments?
What haven't we done? It's faucets, building envelope, insulation, both of attic and piping, like you name it. I never thought about cleaning the back of my refrigerator. That was an amazing thing to learn. Lights off in the bathroom automatically. We changed out the thermostats to, of course, smart thermostats, because just like the light fixtures or the surge protectors, it's reading our behavior and then behaving better for us.
That's great.
Yeah.
The lighting program really is the gold star of everything that we've done together. With this program, we've been able to upgrade our lighting from old fluorescent tubing to LED lights. Fluorescent tubes and ballasts are hazardous waste. There's almost none of that now.
We got an incentive for both the ozone machine that creates ozonated water, but then also for all of our high efficiency gas on-demand water heaters. Ozonated water is better for the environment because it actually cleans the bacteria out of the water. But the coolest thing to me is that not only do I get to save some green, but I also get to help save the planet.
Yeah, being a more sustainable business.
Yeah. In a nutshell, it was amazing. I've had you out at 3 different locations. It was informative, educational, and caused us to think about what we were doing more in ways that we hadn't thought before.
We learned quite a bit about ways that we could save energy, reduce materials, extend our recycling efforts. Working with this program has held us accountable for following through on all of the various suggestions on how we could improve our operation.
Once you set these things up, you can kind of set them and forget them. And that is a really great way to be more sustainable without feeling like it's a burden.
I would absolutely recommend working with the Saving Green program to any other business and organization.
11 out of 10. I highly recommend it.
With success stories like these, there's no reason not to schedule your free site assessment. Learn how you can save some green too. Sign up today.
So there's more where that came from. So keep an eye out for updates about how you can celebrate our 20th year with us. And now I'd like to invite Brandon Trolstad to come back on stage to share about how you all can help sustain the Sustainability Coalition for the next 20 years.
I have to do the lights and talk. It's a lot of work tonight for me. But really, Annette, as we know, is the real powerhouse behind the coalition. So this is why I'm up here again. Yes. So for the next few minutes, I'm going to embarrass Annette a bit, but I'm also going to have an invitation for you all as well. So as many of you know, a few years ago, former mayor of Corvallis, Charlie Tomlinson, and his wife Maria, made a generous gift to the Sustainability Coalition to set up an endowment fund. They believed strongly in the work we're doing, and they were interested in the long-term viability of the coalition. And that's what an endowment does. It provides long-term, durable support from investment income rather than the principal fund amount itself. Charlie and Maria requested the fund be called the Annette Mills Corvallis Sustainability Coalition Endowment Fund to honor Annette's exceptional commitment to creating a sustainable community. Their gift and all of the donations to the endowment fund are held in fossil fuel-free accounts. So, to grow our endowment fund, with the 20th anniversary of the coalition coming up next January, one of our 20-year goals is to double the endowment fund from its current about $52,000 to at least $100,000. And we're launching the fundraising campaign tonight, and we want you to be a part of it. So our goal with the fundraising is to reach that $100,000 mark and to sustain the work of the coalition well into the future. So we want to sustain the Sustainability Coalition. So if you believe in the work we're doing, please help celebrate this upcoming 20th year of the coalition by making a donation tonight, right here and right now. The QR code you see up on the screen will take you to directly to the Endowment Fund donation page. And at this time, if table leaders could please get into the packets and take out the Endowment Fund cards, which also have a QR code, and share them around their table, that would be great. There are also donation envelopes in the packet for those who would like to make a gift tonight by check or cash. Please think about what creating a sustainable community means to you. Is it worth the price of coffee, of a cup of coffee, or for some of us, maybe a fancy latte or two each week, not each day? If everyone here donated at least $5, we'd be well on our way towards the $100,000 goal. So please be as generous as you are able, and let us and know that we are truly grateful for gifts in any amount. So thank you, and back to the exceptional Annette to close us out for tonight.
Thank you, Brandon. I deeply appreciate all of your contributions since the day I first met you on January 10th, 2007, when the coalition was founded. You were 26 years old. Back at you, right? All right. If we could have the lights down one more time. Sorry. The Corvallis Sustainability Coalition has always been about working towards solutions. We don't dwell on problems because we just assume, if you're here, you know that we have a lot of challenges that we're facing. We recognize that these are chaotic, frenetic times, and that now, more than ever, what happens at the local level matters. Together, we can be powerful agents of change, both in our individual lifestyle choices and as members of organizations. We are living in a time in human history when we are witness to the devastating impacts of human choices on the people of the world and on our beautiful, precious planet. We can either choose to ignore these impacts and go about our lives as though nothing has changed, or we can seize this opportunity to be part of a great transition, to act with compassion, to live lightly on the earth, and to work together to create a sustainable community and a sustainable world. And I want to thank you all for being part of this journey. We hope you have a great rest of your evening, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you. And a little housekeeping here. Before you leave, please make sure to return your name tag, put it in the center of your table. And if you have a glass of water, please leave the glass on the water table at the back of the room in that corner. So thanks again for coming.